always used to say he'd be a flip-flop mayor, Sadiq Khan, if he got the gig, but I was only half right. He has been a flop mayor, as at the coming up to the second anniversary of his period in office, more and more people are concluding, even before the shocking realization that London had become a capital of murder and mayhem, where people are afraid to allow their children out in the evening, except that it's also now happening in broad daylight. And the mayor is doing nothing about it, saying nothing about it. No rocking, no rolling, no campaigning, no use of the bully pulpit of City Hall in a way that no other person who occupied that position surely would ever have allowed. Let's face the facts. Whatever we think of either Ken Livingstone or Boris Johnson, or even conceivably both of them, they were both big political figures, big political hitters. Everyone knew them. If they came into a room, everyone knew it. And both of them were better mayors than the mayor we currently have in Sadiq Khan. He is a failed experiment. It's a controversial point, I know, but I'm in a good position to make it. No one can credibly accuse me of either racism or Islamophobia. Sadiq Khan only got the Labour nomination because of the colour of his skin and because of his religious faith. That's the truth of the matter. It was a politically correct statement. He was not the best candidate for the job, as everyone participating in the process knew. Everyone knew that there were other candidates, maybe more than one, who would have done a better job as mayor than he would do, but they were passed over for this failed experiment. And similarly, when the election came, Sadiq Khan won the contest quite handsomely against a very ugly Conservative campaign because of the better instinct of Londoners who did not want to reward the frankly racist and Islamophobic campaign of Zach Goldsmith, a man who should never live down what he did in that mayoral campaign. And I suspect, looking at the stoop in his gait, hasn't himself lived it down. The best instinct of Londoners was to show that we would elect a man of colour, we would elect a Muslim as mayor in the teeth of racist and Islamophobic abuse. Fair play to Londoners, but they cannot have expected that his first 2 years would be such a dismal flop. Do you know that Sadiq Khan, who campaigned more or less daily on the shortage of affordable rental housing in London, do you know how many affordable rental houses Sadiq Khan built in his first year in office? Never mind built, even laid a brick. Just try that question. Laid a brick. How many bricks did Sadiq Khan lay of affordable rental housing in his first year in office? I'll give you the answer to save you looking it up. It was zero. None. Zilch. It was none. Now, he has started building something like 1,700 in his second year, though virtually none of them qualify as genuinely affordable rental housing. Who said so? Well, him, actually, not me, because they're going to be at rents that he described, not me, in his mayoral election campaign as not affordable at all. So on that front, he has failed miserably. On the roads, on congestion, on public transport, he has failed miserably. In case you're wondering where he is to answer these charges, well, we asked him again today. We asked him every day to come on this show, but he doesn't have the guts to do it, just like one or two others. Now, I could go on about what he chooses to do with his time instead of what he should be doing. I referred to it last night. Sadiq Khan, until very recently, was in perpetual motion as a key plotter against Jeremy Corbyn, the man without whom he could neither have been selected or elected. But no sooner, and I mean no sooner, than he got the mayoral robes around his not-so-broad shoulders, he started turning on Corbyn. He is one of the plotters-in-chief, and until very recently, he really fancied his chances of succeeding Jeremy Corbyn as leader of the Labour Party. Indeed, only last week, Tristram Hunt, the lantern-jawed big palooka, who now runs a museum somewhere, but formerly, improbably, was the Labour Member of Parliament for Stoke, he called on Sadiq Khan to break away from Labour, form his own party, and challenge Jeremy Corbyn's Labour. The first time that any of the Blairites have been so brazen to make such a point in public, as opposed to private where they're doing it, of course, all the time. He is often to be found carefully stage-managed and excruciatingly press-released. I learn, actually, from my first guest this evening, that Sadiq Khan writes the press release. In fact, my young son, aged 10, asked me if we could play football in the five-a-side pitches across the road. He said, can you not phone up the owner? I said, the owner is the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. And my son asked, does Sadiq Khan operate the gate? And I said, well, he'd be as well doing so because he's not doing anything more important than operating the gate on the five-a-side pitch opposite Talksport Towers. You can find him correcting and rewriting press releases which read so risibly that virtually nobody publishes them, because boring is Sadiq Khan's middle name. I could go on about his fetish for other minority issues. Transgender was his latest cause célèbre, and all that's fine. I'm a supporter of the transgender people myself. I'm a big supporter of LGBTQ rights, and indeed was many years, maybe decades, before Sadiq Khan turned on to the programme. But if getting on for 60 of my citizens had been murdered on the streets in the first 4 months of this year, I might be paying a bit more attention to that than to his other causes. I'll tell you what I definitely would. I definitely would have visited the families, the bereaved. I definitely would have called them if I couldn't have visited them. Sadiq Khan has done neither. I'd definitely be out on the streets of Hackney, of Tottenham and the other boroughs where people are going down like flies. 20 people a day in London are going to hospital with stab wounds, quite apart from those who are going to the morgue with stab wounds, and an increasing number with gunshot wounds. You'd find me out there trying to find out what was going on, and you'd find me literally chained to the railings outside Parliament, refusing to leave there until Theresa May and Amber Rudd released the funds to re-employ the thousands upon thousands of London police officers who've been sacked, and in whose absence a crime wave worse than New York City has burst upon the capital. He hasn't done any of that, and the only thing he said was yesterday, when he said a task force of 140 officers will now move in to the areas. Well, that'll make a big difference. Too little, too late, Sadiq. You don't need 140 officers. You need 1,400 officers. Maybe you need 14,000 officers. Maybe you need officers from out of London. Maybe you need the armed services. Maybe you need a new civilian defence force. Maybe, but you need to get a bit more urgent about this, or this will be your last term as Mayor of London, which was always your intention, because you intended returning to Parliament as the leader of the Labour Party at the end of your first term. That position is now unlikely to be vacant, and even if it was vacant, you'd be frankly the last man in the world who would be elected to it. So either get off the pot and go and form your new party, or start doing what people are paying you a rather handsome stipend to do. I'll be talking to Andrew Gilligan, who's written an amazing piece in The Spectator summarising the first 2 years of Mayor Sadiq Khan. But I'll also be talking, how can I not, about the former Mayor of London, Boris Johnson. Curiouser and curiouser gets the Skripal affair. Let me just pose this question to you, dear listeners. What do you think public opinion in Britain and the wider world will make of the fact that the British government, and don't tell me it was a clerk in the embassy in Moscow, please, don't try that one. The British government has just refused a visa to the cousin, the closest surviving relative of the Skripal father and daughter, stricken in hospital in England and the centre of an international brouhaha of rare proportions. Can you think of any good reason why the British government would refuse a visa to their relative to come and see them, or even to bury their pets that were allowed to die inside their house with no food and no water, a cat and 2 guinea pigs, the Salisbury 3, slain, not by military-grade nerve agent, but slain by the idiocy or worse of the people who were standing outside the door while the cat and the guinea pigs perished for the want of a drop of water in rainy Salisbury. If it wasn't for that cousin, to whom we've just denied a visa, we would not know that Yulia was better. We would not know she was planning to discharge herself from hospital and return home to Russia. We would not know that Mr. Skripal, who just days ago we were told had a 1% chance of life, days ago we were told that his life support may have to be switched off. If not for that cousin, we would not know that both of these patients were recovering rapidly. Maybe that's the reason why she's not getting a visa, because she told us what the government did not want us to know. It's curiouser, but the forensic...
After several fatal terror attacks hit London last year, the mayor of that city, Sadiq Khan, who is a demagogue, tried to placate his critics by saying that overall London is the world's safest city. Watch.
London is the safest global city in the world, and one of the safest cities in the world. But we are a very safe city.
That was false then. It's ridiculous now. A wave of stabbings have given London a higher murder rate than New York City, which is much bigger. On Thursday, 6 teenagers were stabbed in London in 4 separate incidents over just 90 minutes. Why is this happening? Why is it accelerating? Katie Hopkins, a lifelong resident of the UK, columnist at The Rebel, author of Rude, joins us now with an explanation. Katie, what's going on in London?
Doesn't it just make your skin crawl to hear that London mayor still trotting out? And just 2 days ago, the same lines, London is one of the safest cities. And if you go amongst London right now and talk to regular people in Britain, they wouldn't dream of taking their young people to London, because we now have a higher murder rate than New York. we have a major problem with black gangs in different areas of London, in different postcode, zip code regions. Black gangs, rival black gangs, are killing each other. And that figure you mentioned, 6 in 24 hours, it actually went up to 9 stabbings yesterday. And for every stabbing carried out by one tribe, one gang, that will be revenge. There will be vengeance for that. So it's a perpetuating crime level, and it's a crime wave we're going to see rising. And it's a serious problem here in London that the mayor and the head of the Met won't talk about it because it involves young black men and they're too afraid of being called racist.
Well, that's it right there. I mean, London has had crime problems in centuries past at various points. But what's changed is the unwillingness of the people in charge to acknowledge it, and their willingness instead to lie about it and punish anyone else who doesn't lie about it. So when he says the lie that London is the safest global city, how do people respond in London? Do they kind of nod in a bovine way? Oh, yeah, of course it is.
No, absolutely not. In fact, there's quite a campaign, and it's building now to get Sadiq Khan out. And I see myself as one of the cheerleaders of that campaign, of course. Frankly, if little Sadiq Khan could take off his ballet shoes and his tutu and stop dancing around the issue and address the problem head on, we have a problem with black gangs in London. These are a syndicated crime gangs in different areas attacking each other. We need to do profiling of the attackers. Then we need to quadruple our stop and search efforts. He got into power saying he would do his best to stop and search because it unfairly targeted young black men. Well, I say tough luck. If young black men are the guys mostly committing this crime, then young black men can expect to be stopped and searched. And frankly, if it was white conservative women doing the stabbing, I'd be very happy to be searched every day if it saved a life. But this lot are so politically correct, they are prepared to let London fall, let young boys die on the street, slaughtered every night here, because they don't want to be called racist. And I think that's a sickening state of affairs here in the UK.
But it's a very recognizable theme for us over here. Katie Hopkins, thank you for that. Appreciate it. Good luck with that campaign.
Thank you, Tucker.